I'm going to be talking about demystifying web design. So let's get straight in. Who am I? I'm Kevin Gordon. I'm director of Deals Technology Labs. I have a computer science background, studied comp sci at Warwick University. I have over 17 years of IT experience in various large organisations and now in a small organisation because as of 3 or 4 months ago, I took the plunge and I'm now full-time in my own business. So Digital Technology Labs, who we are a web design company specialising in web design and web development. So it's develop, amplify and grow your business online through good web design and web development. Yeah, so that was largely what I wanted to say there. Let's dive straight in. So what is web design? I know this sounds really, it might sound quite simple because you hear this term bandied around all the time, a website, web design. But web design isn't just, web design is quite an all-encompassing thing at the moment because it ranges from the actual design of the website all the way through to the build and the development. So in this presentation, I'm going to be talking a bit about that, from start to finish. I will also introduce some terminology you might have heard of, something called UX or user experience design. It's something in industry. UX or user experience design is about the kind of sketching, the design of the website initially, and there's a thing called UI design, which is, you might think of as graphic design. It's the actual graphic rendering of the site. These are all things that you should consider doing before even building a website. And what is the importance of good web design? Well, it should solve a problem, and that problem might be as simple as I need an online presence. But there are also some fundamentally really important pieces of value that a website brings. So it can help you appear legitimate. 75% of customers base the legitimacy of a business on the quality of their website and their web design. It gives you an online presence, something that you can be proud of and refer people to. We have had a lot of clients that have come to us embarrassed with their website, that they don't want to put it on their business card. And really that's not where you want to be. You want to be proud of your website, so it's something you can shout about and show to clients. So it's a place where where your clients can get in contact with you. And really important, it's so clients can view examples of your amazing work and see the products and services you have, but obviously validate your credentials. And then it helps you build your online reputation, and it generates another channel for inquiries. So I have some questions. You may have some questions. I hope you share some of these questions. So do I really need a website? Is what I get asked at networking sessions a lot of time. And I'm going to go into that because actually, not that I want to do myself out of business, but I think for a lot of clients, they don't actually need a website. There are lots of alternative platforms such as a Facebook business page. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on that, on the alternatives. So a question would be, what's the cost? This isn't a sales pitch. I'm not going to go into detail about our packages, but I'm talking about what the cost is to you as a business. What's the cost if you don't have a website? You're in a client pitch and they ask for your details and you can't give them a website. That's going to lose you a sale. Or conversely, if you're a business and you're trying to do it yourself, how long is it going to take you to develop the skills to build a website yourself? But having said that, there are some really good platforms that allow you to build websites through WYSIWYG editors. What you see is what you get. So you don't have to have a degree in computer science anymore to build a website. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those kind of options as well. What about maintenance? Maintenance is important. The ongoing, continuing to keep your website up to date. What about hosting? Can I have a show of hands from everyone here who knows what website hosting is? Okay, well that's really great because the majority of you do. That's really good. There's a lot of people that don't don't appreciate that if you have a website, it has to be hosted somewhere. Whether you're WordPress or Wix, there's still somewhere that those files and that content has to be stored, and there's a cost that's associated with that. And what about security? So I'm going to talk a little bit about the different platforms for websites. But if you do go down the route of WordPress, and I would hasten to bet that if you're a business owner with a website, you probably have a WordPress type website. Keeping that website up to date, maintain the security of the operating system, WordPress itself, and the plugins is paramount importance. So, Mythbuster, there are alternatives. So if someone says that you have to have a website, I think they're actually potentially lying. So business page alternatives. So you've got, for example, we've had some clients that have been very successful with Facebook business pages. You can kind of do Instagram, you can do Instagram business pages. There are also ways of selling online, shop fronts like an eBay shop, an Amazon shop front, and those kind of things. And a little hot tip is that you can still use your domain, or you can buy a domain and then you can point it at your storefront. So you might think that if I've got a Facebook business page and I'm kind of a young business starting out, I'm not allowed a vanity URL with Facebook. So it's like facebook.com/NYPST, whatever. Well, you can actually set up your domain forwarding, so you can put your URL mygreatbusiness.com and it can redirect to your Facebook business page. So that's an idea that we have with some of our clients. But let's dive a little deeper. I'm going to talk a bit about what we feel is the web design process that we go through. So from start to finish, having an idea, having a need for a website, and then kind of how to design it and bring it online. So it starts with, we always say it starts with a site plan. This is an example of a site plan. You've got your home page, and then these are kind of pages that go off it. I'm not going to go into detail teaching you how to do this stuff, but typically you can do this with pencil and paper. We use a tool called Balsamiq. Balsamiq is an amazing tool. It's also a free trial as well, and it allows you to build up stuff like this. And the next thing I'm going to talk about, it's always worth figuring out what kind of, some people call it the information architecture, but that's a bit of a clever term. It's working out what content you want to put on your website and how you want to structure that in terms of the pages and the flow, etc., etc. And that's kind of your underlying information architecture, or underlying structure. Then what you want to do is you want to go onto the wireframes. And I talked about UX design, or user experience design. But essentially these are wireframes, and you might have seen stuff like this. So it's like pencil sketches of your website. Some of these look quite cool actually, and Balsamiq allows you to build wireframes as well in a similar way. When we're doing this, and the reason why we do this and recommend doing even sketches of your website as you start, is because the earlier you make those decisions and get things right, the easier it is to make changes. The later on in the development, the harder it is to make changes. So you've done your site plan. You've got your UX wireframes, so you kind of know the structure of the pages, the kind of content you're looking for. You might fill it up with like Lorem Ipsum Latin phrases, or you might even have the content. But then the next stage is the graphic design. And in the graphic design, also known as UI design, it's the graphical render of the site. This is an example, Dumble, site we built recently. Tools you might want to use. I wouldn't advocate trying to build a UI design in Microsoft Paint. There are tools like Photoshop, free tools, free graphic applications like GIMP, and I think PaintShop Pro, there's a free version of that. But then there's some proper heavyweight tools for doing web design now, such as Sketch. You've also got Adobe XD. It depends on, again, this depends on your budget, whether you're doing it yourself or whether you're using an agency to build this stuff for you. What's really cool with stuff like Adobe XD is you can actually prototype what you build. So you've got the sketches, then you've done the graphical rendering, then you can actually build a working prototype that you can kind of deploy to a phone or a desktop and interact with and see how it flows. There are some other prototyping tools I want to mention as well. My favourite is Marvel. Now, if you're doing this on your own and you're doing sketching and pencil and paper, Marvel is an app that you can get for your phone, and you can scan in your sketches, and with a couple of taps and add in some buttons and stuff like that, make it an interactive prototype. So in you can sketch it, and then within like half an hour, you can actually have a full working kind of prototype of your website. We always say it's better to test early and figure out how you want the website to work as early as possible, because it's easier to make changes at that point. And then the design, the content. Before you build a website, and before we build any websites, we always really highly recommend you get all your content together. And that's because from our point of view, it's really important that when I say content is stuff like your images, your text, your written word. You might want to write yourself. There are people like copywriters, copy editors can help write it for you as well. In terms of curating the content, pull it all together. If you're doing this, a Word document's good. It has spell checker and grammar checker. There's also a really cool tool now called Grammarly. I don't know if anyone's heard of that, but it uses AI, sophisticated machine learning, to actually properly give you some good advice, not only on the grammar and spelling, but ways to enhance your writing. In fact, Grammarly is a really good tool if you're blogging or writing a lot of content all the time. So that's a recommendation. Typography. So these are some other tips. The Google font set. Google fonts are free, and they've got loads of beautiful web-safe fonts you can use. And there's a tool called Awesome Font. An Awesome Font is one of my favourite tools. There's a quick picture here of it. You see these icons, like an Apple, an App Store, an arrow and stuff like that. They're all SVG or vector-based art, but Awesome Font puts them all as a font. So you just install a font on your website, and you can use symbols with very easily in your website. To have some cool kind of iconography. And another hot tip, you may or may not have heard of Unsplash. Unsplash is like the best tool for getting imagery. It's a user-generated content. It's a forum or a place where professional photographers can submit all their images in high resolution, and they don't ask for any image rights. It's all free to use. They ask you to kind of leave the same file name, and if you feel like it, put a gratitude to Unsplash. But if you need some really top quality, really good imagery for your website, don't use clip art. Please don't use clip art. Try something like Unsplash. And then that was a really rapid sort of tour of the design process. And I always recommend do the design first, and then you come on to the build. And I did talk earlier about there's different platforms. There's different platforms, different ways of building a website. And this is all dependent on your technical know-how and technical knowledge, and whether you want to do it yourself or you want to get someone to do it on your behalf. We build websites in static HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I hope we're all familiar with that, but HTML is a scripting language that every website's built on. CSS puts decoration and style, and JavaScript makes it interactive. If you're a developer, maybe you want to build it static, but maybe you want a content management system, or even better, a WYSIWYG editor. And there are some amazing tools out there at the moment. There's Wix, there's Squarespace, there's shopping solutions like Shopify are fantastic. And if you want to do it for yourself, typically these are good solutions. The downsides of, for example, of Wix is the way the pages are generated. You don't have all access to the page, so SEO may be compromised, etc., etc. But choose your platform well. You may have heard of content management systems, CMSs, or content management systems. They are tools that allow you to build pages rapidly and edit the content within them. They also often have blogging platforms, so you can rapidly create content in these platforms. The most popular CMS at the moment is WordPress, which I mentioned earlier, and that's a good place to go down. But even with tools such as WordPress, okay, so just stepping back, if you go Wix, Squarespace, Shopify options, the hosting is included in the package. There are free and freemium versions of them. You sign up for an account, you get everything under one roof. With WordPress, you've got loads of different options. You have got WordPress.com, WordPress.org, and then there's lots of other people that host WordPress. And I'm going to come on to more detail about hosting in a moment. But then, if you do go down the WordPress route, don't believe that you have to be a web developer to build a WordPress website. Again, there are alternatives. We build depending on the client budget, we build different websites different ways. And one of the ways you can build websites is to buy an off-the-shelf template, but that often has limitations. But there is something called Elegant Themes Divi, D-I-V-I. It's a fabulous WYSIWYG editor. It's like a theme builder within WordPress. It also comes with off-the-shelf templates. But the beauty of Divi is that you're not stuck with one homepage that looks beautiful and then not able to create other pages. Divi allows you to take elements and reuse them and build what you want. And yeah, so the reusable components, you can create pages rapidly, and you can make amendments rapidly, and you don't necessarily need to know HTML with these tools. But again, sometimes it's about the fidelity of the website you need and the right tool to fit the job, and also the budget that you have as a business. And I mentioned the hosting thing. I do want to get into a little bit more detail about this because I think this is really important. If you are going to go the WordPress route, you do have to make some considerations. You will have to host the website somewhere. You'll need a domain name, or you'll be able to point to. I'm trying to read this and I can't really read. I think the critical thing that there is lots of pieces to this. There's a domain name, email addresses. You want a vanity email, right? You've all seen the. So we're Kevin. Sorry, for example, I'm Kevin at digitaltechnologylabs.com. But you've seen businesses, and even on like a van, they'll say plumbers@gmail.com because they don't know how to set up a vanity email address. So these are important things to consider. Then you have to have an SSL certificate. What that is you've all seen in a browser where it says HTTPS. An SSL certificate enables secure connection to your website. So anything you share through a contact form will be secure. So these are all things to consider. Maybe you need a cookie pop-in on your website for GDPR reasons. You want to capture analytics. Google Analytics is a really great tool for capturing analytics. And then there are many things to consider. I'm not saying I want to put anyone off of going with a company like GoDaddy or Reg123. They seem very appealing on paper because they have a really small hosting charge monthly. But what you have to remember is when you host a WordPress website, you have to keep it protected. And their base price does not cover security updates. It doesn't include WordPress upgrades, and it doesn't include upgrading the plugins. And these are all things that can have vulnerabilities. So when you start adding things like malware protection to GoDaddy, suddenly the price goes up really high. So do consider those details, but also bandwidth, uptime. Hopefully your website's going to be amazingly successful, but do remember, if you go over the bandwidth requirements on GoDaddy, then you'll be charged more and more and more. And also, I have direct experience, a lot of these companies, they'll put as many websites on one server as possible, and therefore if one website is using too much resources, typically all the other websites go down. And I have had experience of this with client websites going up and down and up and down. It's really important that you have as much uptime on your website as possible. So that was all about designing your website, building your website, hosting your website. But what's next? So it doesn't just stop there. It's about amplifying your website. So here's some tips from me. You've got, and if you, by the way, if with your website or web presence you haven't signed up to some of these, I do highly recommend it. So Google Local Business, register for Google Local Business. They'll send you through a postcard to validate your address, and then you'll have a pin on the map representing your business, which then can be associated with your website, Google customer reviews, again building your reputation, Google Search Console. So don't just do Google Analytics. Google Search Console is superb. It is a companion to your web presence. It used to be called Google, I've forgotten what the previous name was. Anyway, the new name is Search Console. And what that does is it actually gives you actual details of who's going to your website, what they're searching for, and then errors with your website. Are pages working? Are there errors on your website that need fixing? It also gives you your mobile, how mobile responsive your website is. So is it viewable on a desktop? Is it viewable on a mobile? Is it viewable on a tablet? And it actually gives you details of the errors where you've got buttons too small, text too cramped, non-responsive stuff. Directory listings. So there's loads of directory listings. Make use of them. I bet everyone has got a business kind of body or something, or organisation, which if they sign up to, they can appear in the directory. I just joined the Chamber of Commerce in Brentwood, and they have a directory listing, so that's really good. ORB, Jill Poet's Organisation Responsible Businesses, again, that's a company that has a directory listing. These are all good, these are all really great things, because one of the things you want to do is build links back to your business website. But there are also directories like Yale and those kind of things. Some of them you have to pay for, some of them you don't. Some of them generate reviews, some of them don't. Social media accounts and handles. If you're new to a company, if you're new to a business, or you, okay, what I'm trying to say is make sure you have the social media accounts or social media handle for all the social media platforms for your business. Because if you don't, someone will nick them. Even if you're not going to use all the channels, do that, and that would be my advice. And what I'm trying to say there is, so Digital Technology Labs, that's a bit of a mouthful for a Twitter handle. So I think we Digitech Labs across our social media platforms. So it means that Twitter/Digitech Labs, and then Instagram and everything like that. Facebook business page, make sure you've got a business page, not a personal page. It's structured differently. Have we lost the screen? Oh well, and then LinkedIn business page is really good as well. But all these social media channels, I'm not going to go into detail about the social media strategy, but it is really important to have these as present. And most of them are free. Most of them are free. And Facebook business page gives you advice on what your competitors are advertising, so you can actually see what other people are doing in that space. And LinkedIn business page has a whole content curation page that recommends content that you should share on your business page, and with engagement rates and stuff like that. There's loads and loads of tools out there that we recommend. So getting seen in the search engines. You've got a website, how do you get seen? And this is really important. There's organic search results. Everyone wants to appear number one for their keywords. For me, I would love to appear as number one for web design Essex or web design London. But you have to start somewhere. SEO, search engine optimization, is a word bandied around, and that's about making sure the content on your website is optimized for the search to find it, basically. And also you've got the right content. And then paid adverts and advertising. Believe it or not, you don't have to just, well, okay. So if you're not ranking for your keywords, you can absolutely bypass this and get right to the top by running digital marketing ads. I'm gonna specifically give Google as an example, but if you run they used to be called AdWords, it's now just Google Ads. And running Google Ads, I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but essentially it's a bidding process. You put a maximum amount you're willing to pay per click, a maximum budget per day, and you only pay if people click on your website. But you've all been on Google, right? You see those ads at the top. A lot of people click on those ads. It's a good way of appearing on the top. But interestingly, if you pay for ads, you drive more traffic to your website. The more traffic to your website, the more popular your website is. The more popular your website is, the more Google will see you as a popular website, and organically you'll improve. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but it is a kind of a virtuous cycle. and a simple organic search strategy. I'm just gonna summarise what we did. So, Digital Technology Labs, we were nowhere a few years ago, absolutely nowhere. And where do you go from being nowhere to somewhere? Start simple, start in a geographical area where your business is based. So we were based in Langdon Hills. So we went after web design Langdon Hills. And it took about 6 months or so, but we optimized our content. We wrote blogs about Langdon Hills. We put content on Langdon Hills on our website, and we got to #1. So we're really proud of that. And what we did is we then decided to set our sights on something a bit bigger. And we went after Basildon. We employed the same strategy, and we were #1 in Basildon. We've fallen down a little few spaces at the moment, so we're working to get back up. But next, we're working on trying to go after Chelmsford and Brentwood. I think we're now up to 87 for Brentwood, and we're just outside the top 100 for Chelmsford. But it takes time. It does take time, maybe 6 to 10 months, if not more. What are the fundamental things that you should appear on your website? So this is just a handy checklist. These are kind of mandatory stuff that you're going to be wanting on your website. Who you are, fundamental. What your business does, so and also your USP and your target clients, obviously. Contact is so important. I think the recent statistics shows the majority of people, if they can't find contact details within 5-10 seconds, they go off your website and they'll never come back. Examples and testimonials and service and products. People want to see what you do, and they want to validate that with reviews and testimonials. And that's a large proportion of people are looking for that on your website. So make that really, really obvious. A navigation menu, so people can get around your website. Your company details, such as company's house, ID and all that kind of stuff. And then legal docs, such as terms and conditions, cookie policy, GDPR policy, etc., etc. So it might seem, I've gone through this super fast, and it might seem a bit overwhelming if you're unfamiliar with some of these terminology. What I wanted to do is just give some reassurance that there is training out there. So anything I've said, even the most basic WYSIWYG editor, there's so much training out there. Some amazing training resources out there. So if you want to do it yourself, yeah, go for it. But there are web design agencies that can help, including Digital Technology Labs. But there are graphic designers that specifically specialise in the design process. They don't build it, but they'll design it for you. And you can get design done, a professional design done, then build it yourself. Or conversely, you can design it and then get someone to build it. There's copy editors that are going to write your content for you, marketing and PR agencies to give you the strategy for doing all what I've just said, social media agencies for managing your social media content, curating your content, posting regularly, SEO experts, and digital marketers. Do never believe an SEO specialist that says they can get you to #1 in the search engine. It's not possible to guarantee that organically, and it does take time. So my final myth buster is it's an ongoing journey. Some people believe that all they need is a website, and then people will come to their site and they will generate tons of inquiries. But if you've already gone on the journey of getting a website, you know this isn't true, right? Although it might happen if you're really lucky or very, very famous. But launching a website is just the start. If you're online, it's your online platform which you have to grow and nurture. And shout about it. And keep it fresh. And add to it. And change it. The more effort you put into your website, the more rewards you will get from your website. So a few next steps. I'm going to be doing a similar presentation to this on taking payments online at Startup 2020 from Enterprise Nation. It's in January. So if this was of any use, check that out, sign up to that. I'd love your feedback. So as I say, I've recently gone all in. I used to work in the city. I used to do public speaking for other companies. This is the first time I've done a presentation for Digital Technology Labs. So thanks, Martin, for the opportunity to do this. But I'd love to hear your feedback. So my details are on the postcards and on the next page. So please email me your feedback. If you're interested in our services, then please do let us know. And I've got one last special request. We're trying to grow our LinkedIn business page. It's LinkedIn company Digital Technology Labs, or searchable one, Digital Technology Labs. Please, 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 could you do me a favour and follow our LinkedIn business page? And that's it. So thank you very much. And one last bit. If there's any questions, then I'm happy to answer questions now, or we can.
No, it's a 10 from me.
Oh, hey. Thanks, Martin.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sure.
You said about like the different names and bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Should you be looking at doing like .co, .uk, .com, .net? Should you be buying up all them names that are connected to you, or?
Oh, I see what I mean. For the domain name, your URL, if it's a very unique URL or very specific to your business and you're happy with it. I mean, that's a good URL, right? So, I mean, if you want to protect that, there are ways that you can actually get a trademark for your name. But yeah, buying up the .co.uk, you get I think if you get .co.uk, you get .uk for free, and buying the other ones, I advocate buying them, because you don't want to have like amazingcompany.co.uk and only buy that, be massively successful, and then someone goes and nicks .com, .net, .org, and has a different presence, because you see that with some businesses, and it's a shame. It's a shame.
Because like every time I go back on there, there's like a different name. It's like .tv, .this, .that.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I mean, there are some that are really premium and worth going after. Like if you're a London-based company, I'd suggest get .london on your company name. But getting, I mean, there's some that just aren't relevant to your line of business, so I wouldn't worry about them. Yeah. So.
Is it not true that if you can, because when you go in and buy these URLs, then you can put in what you think you'd like to call it, and then they'll tell you whether it's already been taken or not.
Oh, absolutely.
So to my mind, .org has a sense of an organisation rather than just .co.uk, which lots of people have personally. So is there any substance in that? Or I
mean, traditionally, org was meant to refer to kind of charitable organisations and not-for-profits, but you do see non-charities use that. So, I mean, I think it's sometimes personal choice. I think if yeah, I just realised maybe I don't own digitaltechnologylabs.org, so maybe don't buy that. Just going to go and check. Okay. Any further questions? Oh, okay. Yeah.
What would you recommend?
What we would recommend?
Yeah.
I mean,
so many out there.
I would definitely recommend go for kind of a local business, maybe a smaller hosting company that's got a good review and a good reputation, because they tend to have their data centers in the UK, and you tend to have contact with potentially the owner, or you'll have a face to the business. I think that's really important. If you GoDaddy, you speak to a different person every time, there's no ownership of your case, and if things go wrong, they don't really care. Whereas if a small business, small hosting company, is usually, you get better customer service, in my experience.
I've used 123.reg for years, and I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, really happy? Okay, cool. All right, cool. Right, I think that's a wrap. Martin, over to you.
Let's hear it from
Thank you.